baby, the Expanse fan chat. That's what we do. We talk about the Expanse here. If you guys don't know, I'm John. I only play Wizards. I run Abrax's Precipice, where we play the Expanse role-playing game forever and ever. We've been doing it for over 2 years. And needless to say, myself and many of the fans in the Expanse community were very excited this year, 2023, for the video game. From it's pronounced Telltale, correct, Darren? Telltale. The E is silent. Okay. And so I'm here joined by off to my screen this way, Amber. Amber, tell us who you are and what you do.
Cosplaying for 10 years, and I'm also a huge fan of Expanse, and especially Drummer as my makeup didn't give that away. And
Nice.
I've also been a gamer for the last 20 years. My husband and I have been together for almost 20 years now, and he was the one that introduced me to gaming.
Aww.
And the couple that games together stays together.
Very nice. Show us your, if you can stand up a little bit, show us your outfit. Like you got the whole OPA thing and the whole jumpsuit from season.
Yeah, so this is season 4. Drummer when she's captain of the. Is it the Behemoth?
Behemoth. That's season 3. I think that's the back end of season 3, isn't it? Because they do it bad, and then season 4 was all on Illis, right? Or am I mistaken? Or she wears the both seasons though.
Yeah, she was she started Drummer came in season 2, and in season 4 she was the captain of Medina Station.
That's right.
That's what it was. Yeah, and then it was Behemoth later, I think.
But yeah, you got the whole Drummer in the future outfit going on, and it's a lovely cosplay, and it's absolutely brilliant. And then we also have our a special guest, a last minute addition to the roster. You want to introduce yourself there, Darren?
Yeah, sure. I'm Darren Gladstone, and I'm over at Telltale. So I kind of work behind the scenes. I guess basically, if you've seen stuff in social media, I've probably had some hand in it, and or making snide remarks to other people on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, it's I've been a gamer my whole life. I've been in the game industry for a long time, and I've also been an Expanse fan for a long time. So it was kind of like it was this weird, funny convergence when one fandom of mine collided head on with another fandom of mine, and I get to do it as my job, which is pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool. That is super cool. Yeah, well, I'm glad to have you here, man. And thanks for. We met earlier in the year when you guys did the whole Expanse experience down in Los Angeles, where we got to play the game early and see all the props that are now for sale.
That's right. The auction is live.
The auction is live. Yep. It is lively.
Oh, that one.
That's a whole topic of conversation for a whole episode. Honestly, I will say this. I wrote an essay about how Expanse fans for a very long time have been starved. We didn't really have a lot of merchandise. We didn't have a lot of tie-in stuff. And so it's interesting seeing people react to the auction because they're not used to Expanse stuff for sale. And it being so high ticket. I will say that they're shocked. But we've been starved, and but now we're feasting with an auction, a game, action figures this year. There's a whole diecast series coming out, so there's a whole lot of new stuff coming out for a show that's been off the air now for a year and a half.
And if you stay tuned to our social channels at Telltale, we have some cool stuff coming. That's all I can say for now, but we're gonna have some fun stuff for everybody.
Oh snap! Yeah,
I can't say any more than that. Sorry.
All right, we won't make you get in trouble. So.
Mm-hmm. So that actually is interesting because you did mention to me before we started the stream, you guys have a little extra video this week.
Oh yeah. So what we try to do is we're trying to do a behind the scenes video after every episode. So kind of like what you guys are doing, but not as well, because you guys are awesome. So so what we do is we kind of do behind the scenes. We talk to the devs, what it was like creating, for example, we did a whole thing about Zero G, how it was recreating Zero G, in a mocap room. And then we kind of go into it a little bit and then talk about the episode, spoilers like you guys, and then we give a teaser for the next episode. So later this week, toward the end of this week, we're going to have our little internal breakdown of episode 2 with a teaser for episode 3.
Very cool. And I dropped a link for everybody to go check that video out after the stream. After the stream, please, after the stream. So you can see how they did the zero G stuff. You showed up a little bit of that footage at the experience, and it was impressive. It was super cool to see like how you guys pulled this off on in the mocap studios, basically. I mean, that's what it really is, right? Like
yeah, and I think a big part of that is, and it's kind of interesting. You know, I've been a part of like this behind the scenes stuff for a long time, and when you actually realize how a lot of the stuff is kind of put together.
Mm-hmm.
Like the props that like there's like, you know, these fake sound stages, and like people, you know, obviously everyone knows about the Lycra suits with the little, you know, balls to capture your motion in 3D, but like seeing how they actually create the environments and the items that you're using, to me, and that fascinates me, but I nerd out about random stuff.
I know, I mean, that's just brilliant though, because I mean, you know, there's still people that like look at how a film like 2001 pulled off all these shots. Back in the 60s, 70s and stuff like that too. You know, the whole that's just like stick a pen to a clear paint and make it look like in zero G. That's how do we cheat our way to zero G? You know, we don't. Unlike, you know, when the Expanses, the television shows coming out and produced by Amazon, they didn't have the Bezos money to film on site. So you know, you know, so. It's I get it, yeah, and it's really cool to see that kind of stuff. So I look forward to watching that. I watched a little bit of the footage, but I'm not sure. I haven't looked at all of it yet, so I want to go ahead and give it a better look too and such. The episode 2, man, I was very happy.
That's great to hear. Yeah, it's what I like. I'm not going to telegraph the later seasons episodes in the season, but the one thing I like about this episode personally is that it really does kind of, you see payoffs for things in episode 1. Yeah. And then it also mixes up the style a little bit, so you're not just getting the same thing over and over again. At least that's the hope. And it's only going to get a little just wait. All I have to say is just wait.
Yeah, there was a lot it was a lot of payoff. I will say that. So and such. Amber, you have any initial thoughts, just kind of general broad thoughts on episode 2?
Episode 2, I thought was really great. I agree with you. There were definitely some payoff moments, and you know, once again, I took note, and I appreciated like the sort of like the relationship between drummer and all of the crew members, like have a chance to like develop and grow more. And so it really feels incredibly immersive, and you know, nothing feels unnatural. Like nothing feels rushed or fake. And so I think there's been the storytelling is progressing really, like what I feel would be the right pacing. If, you know, if we found ourselves in such scenario.
Yeah, and I felt like episode 1 ended on a great cliffhanger. There, you know, and this one, and once again, everyone, this is spoilers because we're just talking about it. We can't talk about one without the other. So spoilers for 1 and 2 here. You know, 1 ended on this cliffhanger. They're getting chased, and it's like, how are they going to deal with it? Their drummer's in charge now. You know, you decided to like mess with the captain somehow. Guess what? You're in charge. Gonna suck. Like, you know. So get ready to step up. Yeah, that was a big thing, and I wanted to see how she stepped up, and she really did in this episode. But it was interesting because they threw her right into the action at the beginning of this episode. The episode's got initial action. You're right in the action. There's no real like you don't get time to spend kind of thinking about what happened in the previous episodes so much, which it just throws you into this one where. And then on the back end of it, you got to kind of take some time to reconsider what's going on. And it was kind of an inverse of the pace of the first episode. And I dug that. I kind of like that. It's kind of a good sandwich mechanism. Darren's nodding. Is that what you guys were going for?
Yeah, I mean,
sure, why not,
like
right?
I said, well, I mean, as you noted, like we kind of left episode 1 with a cliffhanger, and you can't just, you know, with a high tension, high stakes moment. And how do you go from that to slowing the pace down? And what, you know, it felt like personally, and I feel like I have to speak as both a gamer and Expanse fan, and then kind of divorce myself from the fact I work at Telltale for a hot second. But I really did kind of come into this episode hoping that from my, like, you know, behind the scenes, like my first playthrough of this months ago, and I was like, okay, I want to see this thing just kind of like hit the gas. Like the Epstein drive is going. Let's get this. Let's go crazy here, and it did. So.
Yeah. My comment on social media too was like we got some tactical espionage action. Was the way I phrased it. No, I did, and I stand by that because there's a part of it like I was playing it when you're kind of messing with the pirates, and it felt like Metal Gear Solid. Like I'm just gonna come out and say it felt like Metal Gear Solid. And
well, I'm kind of waiting for that exclamation point like sound effect.
Yeah. Well, the problem with the exclamation point is the guy has to have a head still. So
that's a technicality.
That's a technicality. Yeah, he's still that his capacity for thought is done. But but yeah, that part was really cool, and I dug the way that there's a firefight in it, which I really dug. I thought the use of the drones connected to the PDCs was a clever tactic. That was something I've messed with. I hadn't considered it in previous, even in my own games where I've had my players have to go up against drones.
But did that seem legitimate? Like, did that
pass
muster
like tactic. I mean,
so
I mean, let's be clear. Like the one thing is beyond even this game being Expanse, it has to be a video game. Yeah. And as a video game, as that art form, you have to play with the players. And if you make it so that it's like opaque, people will just throw it down. They'll be done. And I felt that the way this was set up it made sense. Obviously, these machines probably wouldn't be showing off lasers in the visible spectrum. For sensors. Like it'd be like, you have to think because you're, my motion lights on the front of my house have IR sensors, but you can't see them. But here it's like, you got to have a little bit of, you got to give the player something to look at and to be aware of. And honestly, they probably could swap over their stuff to see all that. And so like to secure a location. And for kind of a siege thing, but these made sense because like they're just like the run-of-the-mill drones. They're not really the weapons. They're just there to, hey, is something there? Cool, blast it. They're not doing the blasting. They're just doing the sensing. And that's what most drones do, is just sense stuff. So it made a lot of sense. Yeah, I dug that.
Yeah, it's a lasing a target.
Yeah, lasing a target, exactly.
So I have to point out, I struggled with the drones a little bit, just a little bit. I have really. My hand-eye coordination is only finely tuned for making things, and it was a struggle for me to start gaming. It was really embarrassing. The first game that I played with my husband was EverQuest.
Oh wow!
And I had come home from work, and he was like, "I have a surprise for you," and I'm like, "Okay." So I went down into our shared space, and he had a computer set up for me, and he had my little EverQuest character set up.
Aww.
And he goes, I put you in a really easy zone, so you should be fine. Except I wasn't, because I couldn't run straight. I kept going loopy-loops. And I found myself with, when I was playing the game, and I was having a hard time. I was going like this, and then I kept drifting sideways. And so I had to sort of, the tutorials were excellent. Click here, click there. They were great. I appreciate those. But that doesn't help my hand-eye coordination issues.
Well, actually, this is something, for the future. When you go into the accessibility settings, you can really, there's these series of sliders where you can adjust all of the zero-G movement. So if you feel like you're zipping too quick or rotating too quick, you can dial that stuff down, way down. So it's not as nausea-inducing or getting really, throwing you off. I know I'm saying that no, totally. And it's actually kind of funny you guys bring this up, and I need to shamelessly plug the behind the scenes video we have coming up. But we talk about this exact thing because Tommy Spampanato, who's a lead design artist anyway, so when he was working on this stuff, there was this constant back and forth about making it he wanted to adding too much, don't want to make it too gamey and make it too tough for people to make it past the drones, for example. So but it's I'm glad to hear that you guys enjoyed it and able to survive it.
Yeah, I thought it was great. Once I figured out, once I compensated for my drifting, I was good.
Yeah, that and I think they did a good job. And that one thing I did notice, and forgive me if I got this wrong. So when I played the game back in May, that was an earlier build. Yeah. And I remember doing the 0G, but this one, the 0G, they actually have a little cursor. I'm playing on PC. They have a little cursor that goes along to show how far you're drifting out, your approximate acceleration. Was that added in? I don't remember that when I played back in May.
I think that was there at the time. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't go back and look at my footage, but that's super helpful. That's been one of my favorite mechanics. Like, it's such a, I mean, literally, it's a small thing. It's literally like 10 pixels by 10 pixels, but like, it helps so much, and that's been a really cool element of this game too. I really appreciate that Deck 9 and Telltale put into this game. So yeah,
it actually kind of reminded me a little of old flight sims, where you have like that little tracker that kind of like as you're trying to lead a target, and it kind of like you're facing straight, but like here's this little extra sensor telling you exactly where that shot's gonna go.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
I think I played with a flight simulator like one time. I don't land very well. In case
that's
anybody
always the worst. That's always the worst.
It's always the toughest part.
Yeah. So let's talk about this one topic. I'm gonna let Amber take the lead on this one because she's the one that did it. But let's talk about the Ganymede red kibble.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna go ahead and put the I got the image you sent me of what you made, and I'm gonna put up the image of the actual recipe that was in the game. I want to bring up one thing before I forget real quick too, and this was fun. So when I was playing the game, you find an arrest warrant. Basically, I'll say that you find an arrest warrant, and the arrest warrant was signed by someone specific. Did you see that one, Darren?
Oh yeah. I'm not going to talk about anything because I don't want to even though this is a spoiler cast, I can't be a party to the spoil.
Okay. But
feel free to say it.
It was just that the arrest warrant was signed by one S.A. Corey.
Oh yeah.
And I sent it to Daniel of the Corys, Daniel Abraham, one of the authors, and his comment was, "It's nice to be remembered." So I was like, how's it, to be fair, at least you're the one signing the arrest warrant. You're not the one whose name's on the arrest warrant. So, yeah. So I mean, you're on the right side of it, at least. You're on the better side of it. So, but that was a great nod. Actually, I caught that. That was like super tiny, and I caught it, and I was like, I was laughing hard. I was like, hey, they'll appreciate this one, and he did appreciate it. But let's talk about Ganymede red kibble. Amber, you made it. You tasted it. Give us the rundown.
So so my original plan was to follow the recipe as it is in the screen capture that John just shared. Except I forgot to buy garlic powder, and I ended up substituting in this mushroom umami seasoning to kind of give it that, because I would imagine it's like I tried to actually buy mushroom flour instead of using like wheat flour, but that doesn't exist, or I couldn't find it somewhere quickly on the internet. And but yeah, I did that. I did a 1/4 teaspoon of paprika, and it actually was like, as soon as I started mixing it and cooking, I was like, oh my gosh, this smells like my childhood, because it was my father is 2nd generation Mexican American. And so we had a lot of cumin and like a lot of like these spices like in our dishes that I ate when I was growing up. And so it was actually really good. Unfortunately, my spice tolerance has gone down over the years. So I have an earther stomach, not a belter stomach. And I actually had my kids try it, and they
that's the best part about having kids experimenting on them.
Yeah, my oldest was like, this tastes like the inside of a burrito.
Oh, that's pretty good. It's a good compliment.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. That's good to know. I think, you know what, I'm going to take that back to Virgil. I'm sure he's going to be loving hearing that.
Yeah.
I love Virgil. That was another thing, man. This episode solidified my love of Khan and Virgil.
Oh, same here.
Those are my people. I like them a lot. It's interesting because a lot of people tend to like the Belter characters a lot more, especially in the main series, like the Drummer obviously, or Ashford on the show or something like that. But where the Earthers, like, except for Amos, of course, because everyone loves Amos. Yeah, I will say this: if you read the auction and run the stats on it, anything with Amos's name on it is exponentially higher than everything else.
Oh my gosh!
It was kind of funny, like the same identical armor that Holden had. If Amos wore it, it's like 8 times the value. Like, that's so stupid. That just cracks me up. I was like, it's so funny. There's a commentary there, but what I did want to say about the kibble thing was clever about it was they labeled it Ganymede and had flour on it, which is where you'd only pretty much be able to get flour from out in the belt. So I thought that was a clever nod. And I like the substitution thing too. And then have we, Amber, I'm not sure if Darren, but like, so the reason why, like, I don't know if I've talked about it on the stream, but like have I talked about why like Belter food's so spicy? Have I talked about that? Like why it has to be so spicy?
No.
So for those who don't know, like so the way that our taste buds work, a lot of it is based on gravity. That basically when you eat something, it sinks into your tongue. And because if you're in space, you don't have that, stuff doesn't taste, it tastes blander. So you have to spice it up to get that spice. That's why there's not that they like spicy food, it's that they need a lot more to get flavor out of it. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of phenomenon of how flavor works up there and such. And there's also the Martian angle too, but more of the Belter stuff. And I really enjoyed this, and I love this little recipe. That was a lot of fun. And that's what I'm liking about the game is all these kind of tidbits and everything too. And our one other critique I do want to share with you while I have you here as a captive audience, Darren, is the Artemis has a lot of microwaves.
Yeah.
That's all I want to say. It's not.
There's a lot of cooking going on.
There's a lot of cooking. Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny actually. So I've asked internally about that, and I don't have. Like, they actually are. Like, they owe me a backstory on the ship itself because it's not a traditional ship. No. I mean, like there's a lot of stuff bolted on around it. It's, you know, the captain of the ship is, you know, I mean, like, you know, you have an Earther, you got a Martian, you got Khan, who's, you know, it's. You know,
yeah, we get a reveal of the we'll say the font, the origin of the ship, who owns it, why they own it, how Cox became the captain, why he's the captain, and I thought that was a really clever story. I really enjoyed that one. But it is a big ship, like it's meant to have a bigger crew, and that's the thing is it's being manned by a skeleton crew. I mean, a very minimal crew. It's like 6 people on a ship that big.
Right.
Where it should honestly be more like, it should be more like 5 times that, 8 times that.
That's kind of it. You look around and you're like, you see, like, even like on the supply side, on the supplies level, like, we know when Cox is in the brig, if you keep him there or not.
The brig.
Right. If he's in the brig.
Well,
but I mean, like,
it's a secure storage room for like their special cargo, and it's like, oh, I guess he's special cargo, put him in there.
Exactly. Yeah. But I mean, you take a look around, like, clearly that place is way bigger than it needs to be for like a crew of what, 7?
Yeah, and that was the thing too, is that we talk, a lot of the people that were the Expanse fans talk about how big the interiors of the ship are. They're very lofty. And I saw that from 2 points of view. One is that, like, it's a video game, so you need to be able to see third person down. That's a big thing. But also, it's a cargo ship. They're meant to move big stuff through the ship. They would have like bigger tracts of area to get stuff in and out. So that made sense to me too once I kind of started playing it. And that was the other thing I like about episode 2 is we got to see a lot more of the Artemis. We got to see a whole deck that we didn't even get to see before. And it's a big one. So yeah. My buddy Great Rafiki, he's another Expanse RPG player. He says he ever loves Amos. He does things taste differently when you're on a plane. I'm not sure what that's about. That might just be like the food's bad, but
there's a big part of that. Yes.
Yeah. So
that makes sense now, because like I love spicy tomato juice. Mm-hmm. Only I love it more on a plane than I do.
Interesting.
Like, yeah. Okay.
So Bloody Mary's in flight. That's kind of what's going on there. There we go. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Hey, look at that. Hey, look, you watch The Expanse, you get smarter, and you understand. We and this is what literature is all about. People and like art and media is understanding ourselves better. So it's all good, man. This is great. I don't know what. I'm trying to think what else I want to ask you here today, Darren. Tell me what else. Like, what's kind of been like what's been kind of what's interesting about this game for me is that it's bringing in a lot of Telltale folks, because Telltale's back. That's that's the hashtag. And
thank you. It's working. Thank you.
It is. And that's great. People are stoked about all the stuff with that and everything. And this is the game that's trying to push that's really leading the pack. It is on the frontier, and there feels like there's some pressure on this game, but also like the Expanse fans themselves are stoked for it. Like I'm in all the groups and people are like, "Oh, did you see the trailer?" It's funny because people are asking us if we saw the trailer like 3 months into the game, like being announced, or the trailer being released. They were like, "Yeah, we saw it. Dude. We've seen where you been. Oh, I missed it." And people are now picking it up and playing it. And I'm liking kind of what have you kind of noticed from the Telltale? I asked you earlier if I pronounced it correctly, and I'm not pronouncing it correctly now. The Telltale fans that are coming into the Expanse, what are they making of this universe? And then conversely, what have you heard from the Expanse fans that are coming into this type of game?
Well, okay, so I'll try to tackle both questions at the same time, or not. But anyway, so the main reason, so the big thing for us was that we knew that like we wanted to kind of appeal to obviously a broad spectrum of folks, but people who are fans of Telltale who might not have heard of the Expanse yet, and we know how awesome the universe is. So making deciding to make this a prequel around Drummer it's a nice entry point. A lot of people came in were genuinely worried. Like they were saying, I don't know the first thing about the Expanse. Do I have to worry about like not understanding this world before jumping in? And so the way we set it up and the way it was set up by the team at Deck 9, it was just so well done, kind of like welcoming people in. It's like it's not focusing as heavily on the politics here. I mean, like obviously that's obviously a huge part of the whole universe, but this is kind of focusing on this one crew on this one ship surviving in this universe. Kind of like pre Rocinante with a motley crew, but at the same point, I kind of, in a weird way, I was kind of like equating it to, like when my first time playing it, I was equating it to like Das Boot, or kind of like or something like that, where it's like you are relying upon the people next to you to survive, and that's really all it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. It is a classic tale. I mean, you know, it's and that's kind of what, like, I have a friend, Emily Friedman, who's a lit professor out at Auburn, and she played on my show once, and she wasn't really familiar with the Expanse, but when she started, like, she checked out the first episode, and she like messaged me almost immediately, she's like, is the ship really named the Cattenberry? I was like, and I was like, yeah, and she's like, oh, she's like, the Rocinante, really? I was like, yeah, and she's like, oh, she's like, this is too, like, it's kind of there, but I think you're right, though. I think the Das Boot is a really good comparison. But it's just people, that's kind of the thing about this situation in space, is you're just locked in it, man. This is it. This is who you got. Right. Good luck. And that's a pretty easy scenario for all of us to understand.
Right. And that's kind of it. It's like and forcing it, you're focusing on these few people in this ship, sort of scavenging together and surviving together. That it seems like it's resonated with a lot of people who are not familiar with the series. And the thing that I think is kind of fun is seeing how, like, people are going, either they said they were going to start watching the show afterwards, or in anticipation of playing the game, they started watching it ahead of time. Like, oh my God, this show's great. How come no one ever told me? I'm like, well, we did. And
several times. So
that's, right. And but that's the nice thing about it, is that and there's a lot of times, and I mean, Telltale has a track record of, long before I showed up on the scene, of creating a game based off of an existing IP that, obviously there's some that are, super famous and everyone knows about. But then there's others like for example, the Wolf Among Us, based off of the awesome Fables comics. It introduced a whole bunch of players because it was an easy concept to grab, to latch onto, and it was just a damn fine game. But yeah, that's talking to the Expanse fans. The Telltale fans, and I think that they're enjoying it so far. I hope they are. I mean, I see a lot of positive stuff. Obviously, there's people who want to play something else, but I think that we're speaking to such a huge audience of people that are just happy to have a fun story, a really compelling story with characters that you can get into meeting and interacting with, and actually they're being like some kind of actual consequences to having conversations, which is a huge thing for these games.
What's interesting about that too is that I think this is what the Expanse fandom, once again, I wrote this paper, so I spent like 3 months of my life just thinking about this topic of the Expanse. But I think that's what the Expanse fandom and the Telltale fandom has had in common is they were starved for it. We were starved for years. And now we're getting the feast of the Expanse game, and so I think that's what we're stoked. I think that's why it's so stoked. And also, like, I won't kid, like, being a Telltale fan in the past, like, and compared to now, it's so cool knowing that the episodes are coming out this time. They're gonna hit every 2 weeks. I'm loving that. Like, I love that release schedule and that kind of pattern. And I hope you guys keep on doing that in the future.
Well, yeah, I mean, like we're basically seeing how it works. We're seeing how people respond to it, because obviously, it's been a long time since we did this stuff. I mean, like, our last game, 5 years ago. But I mean, like, culture's changed. People do a lot of binge watching now. But you know what? The important part is we designed the entire game up front, so we actually intentionally pace this out for 2 weeks apart, so people can have those conversations and kind of capture that energy of, like, you're watching your favorite show and you want to mix it up and, like, do something like this and talk about what you did and what you think's happening next.
All right. So the second question: how has the Expanse fandom come into this game for you? What have you been noticing?
Well, I think there's been a lot of people who kind of slipping into the chats and just going, "Oh, you got to see this show," and that's kind of what I like. Is it's kind of like everybody that's an existing Expanse fan is kind of like an Expanse sommelier, and they're like, "Okay, come on in, play the game. You played the game, you're liking it. Okay, you got to watch this season. You got to watch this show. You got I'll help you." And it's very much like a supportive community in the front. And I always knew that was going to be the case. And, like, I think the best example of this is, remember when I basically I wanted you guys to come out to the May event.
Yeah, you had Chris from Expanse Geeks, and you had
exactly
Chris from JPL come out, and
right. It was just like we had a couple open spots. I'm like, come on in, let's hang out. I want to kind of just show you the game. And there was just one moment. I don't know if you remember this. There's this one moment where I was introducing you. There was this one guy. He's a big Telltale fan, but he'd never heard of the Expanse before our involvement. And then I said, you guys should talk.
Was this Dom?
It was Dom, right?
Yeah, Dom. So, Dom was great.
He's an awesome dude. And I'm just like, it would be so cool to have, like, this moment, like, you are just kind of brain dumping on each other about, like, here's all these really cool things you should know here, and it's like you're both kind of like information sharing and kind of, and it was bringing, like, fandoms together, kind of like this is like in my head, like what I do to myself as the two fandoms are coming together. But that's kind of that's what I've seen, at least, and hopefully, I mean, I don't get a chance to patrol every single forum on every single place, but my sincerest hope is that we're doing and that's been my concern all along, is that we're like because obviously we put our hearts into this, and we wanted to make sure we're doing proper justice to like this amazing universe.
Please go on.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I saw the pictures after the May event, and I got, like, the worst case of FOMO I've had in a long time. I am
so sorry.
It was so, like, I knew we were going to play the game, but I didn't expect that level of production. I also wasn't completely aware of you guys, of how much you coordinate with the prop store, to have all the props there. That was unreal.
Alcon's been an amazing partner here, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, they've been fully supportive the whole way. It's been great from start to finish. And I mean, and like, mind you, like, my capacity is, like, sitting on the side of it. Like, I'm not even talking about the team at Deck 9 that's constantly been, like, iterating with them and, like, developing the game and the story and all that. So
yeah, no, it was a great event. My only complaint about the event was that I didn't know about the food till later, till, like, it was almost over. Yes. I didn't get anything to eat, and I was just drinking my own water and coffee the whole time. And then I was like, oh, I didn't realize there was, like, this whole area over here. I should have come over, and I could have seen Drummer Suit earlier and everything. But it was cool to geek out. I liked. I always like seeing props and everything. I studied library information sciences at UCLA, so we have a lot of archives. And one of my favorite things when I was going to school there was, around Halloween, there was a coffee shop outside of one of the libraries, and they would bring out all their framed archival horror movie posters from like the last 100 years. So you would see like original Universal posters next to like original like Nightmare on Elm Street posters, all pristine in this coffee shop. And I always like seeing stuff from movies and just seeing it in person. It's one thing to be like, oh, there it is on screen, but how did you actually do it? And so that was a great opportunity. I'm glad you guys got like the Telltale, Deck 9, Alcon, and Prop Store all got to coordinate that kind of a cool effort.
Yeah, and I guess I'm genuinely surprised. Not a single person that I'm aware of picked up on the fact we had like multiple Avasarala outfits like on models at the event, and like I was like, oh my god, you haven't. It's like because obviously we announced last month that the DLC is Avasarala's backstory.
Well, with how many outfits she has, I figured they just said, hey, here's like a handful of Avasarala outfits, like they sound like they're confetti. There's just so many of them. But I picked up on it that her voice was in the game, and that made me suspect that there was going to be and Shuri has a history of doing some games too, so I was suspecting that. I will say that I figured out what that game's going to be about because Frost said certain things at SDCC that were not discreet. We'll say not the most discreet way to describe the game. So I figured out what the plotline of that game's going to be, but I will leave it.
I mean, we're pretty transparent about like what's happening there. I mean, like we didn't really make it a huge mystery.
Yeah.
For anyone who's paying attention.
Yeah, but it's also interesting too because it's showing Avasarala. I think it's before she's in her current rank. When the show begins, she's like one rank lower. And the other thing, and this is the one core thing of Avasarala as a character, even whether you're in the books or in the show, is one of the most fascinating things about the character people always overlook. She's never won an election. Like she's never been elected to any position she's ever been in. She always just kind of like ends up defaulting into the position or being a bureaucrat to a point where she gets in it. And like that's one thing I kind of like about her is she's an interesting character in that regard, and she doesn't really worry about the popularity contest.
A true political animal.
She is, yeah, no, it really is, and I think people will enjoy it, especially if you haven't. I'd be really curious to see someone who had never seen the show play that bonus episode and see how Avasarala handles herself and be like, holy shit. I'm like, yeah, it is a tapestry of profanities, my friend. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. Yeah, and once again, for people that are fans of the show and haven't read the books, Avasarala on the show is toned down compared to the books. Like it's like the cursing in the books is out of control compared to this. So it's impressive. Like it's still impressive though, and I'm really looking forward to all that. Amber, what's going on? What do you want to say?
I was thinking like I didn't pick up on that being toned down, but I feel like that thinking about because it's been a while since I've read the book, and I'm thinking about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think you're right, and I think that like part of me going, they tone it down for TV ratings because it was initially on Sci-Fi.
Right.
But I think Shuri commands a presence.
Oh yeah.
And so like she doesn't have to say like fuck you asshole like with her mouth. She can just give you a look and you know you're getting like the cursing of your lifetime just not alone.
But when you do get the fuck you asshole, it's that cherry on top of that sundae, and it's delicious.
So
yeah, I'm really happy you guys managed to pull that all off. And we do, while we have, I don't know if you watched our first episode, but our one, if you guys do another Expanse one, the character we want a whole series about more than anything is Shed Garvey. We want a Shed Garvey series.
Oh, Shed. Oh man.
And because here's my pitch. If you want my pitch, here it goes.
Okay, here we go.
Here you go. All right. So this dude ends up as basically the med tech on the Canterbury, and he's clearly not qualified. All he knows how to do is give people medication enough to make them not care about their symptoms. So, and his backstory is it's really murky, but the best explanation I've heard is that he got in trouble as a drug dealer someplace. So here's my question to you. Wouldn't this be a great arc? How do you mess up so bad as a drug dealer someplace out in space that you have to go take a really crap job on this ice hauler only to be, within several months of your action on there, be decapitated by a railgun? Like, I want to know that story. That's the story I want to hear and I want told, is how do you schlub out that bad?
Like, you must have pissed off dogs something fierce, and then you're running for cover.
Did something, man. Like, what was that? Yeah. So I would love a Shed Garvey the series, because it's just such a weird character to pick, and I feel like look, man, we owe Shed something at least somewhat at some point. So, but
should I pour one out for Shed?
Pour one out for Shed. We all have. Yeah, it's because he poured out his his heart and soul there for the crew in that episode. All I gotta say is dunk. But yeah, that was one we were talking about. That was a character we were thinking about for a bit. And we have other characters that we're hoping for. The Office Earl episode, I'm not gonna kill you. The character I missed the most from the show, I is absolutely brilliantly done on the show. Actually, better done than in the books. Is Cordiar, her spy.
Oh yeah. He was so good.
That guy was great. That was one of the best, most compelling characters to watch on that show. And I really, the actor's great. I forgot his name offhand, but he's fantastic.
Yeah, I've seen him in a bunch of things. It's one of those like amazing actors. You've seen it in a bunch of things and you can't quite peg it down. But he went out like a boss.
And he nails the action scenes. He nails the espionage kind of element. His relationship to Ava Sorel is brilliant. Him and Bobby are hilarious.
Oh my gosh, they're great.
Yeah, they're just kind of like, she's like, fuck you, spy. He's like, well, fuck you, Marine. And like, it's like
if there was an opportunity to do like a buddy cop movie or like that would be the team up.
Yeah, I also feel like he did. Okay, this is as a woman, I feel like I feel like the actor also, he was like the stone cold killer, very calculated, but there was a sweet and caring side to him.
Oh yeah,
that I got, and I love that. I mean, I just wanted to cuddle him. And,
you felt bad for him at points, yeah.
It's funny. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, I was just. Okay.
I was gonna say like totally what you're saying, and then like I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but like I'm totally channeling like Jean Reno as like as the cleaner in The Professional. And like that kind of like no women, no kids, and he's just like this total sweetheart of a father figure to a young Natalie Portman, and that's where I kind of saw that character. It's kind of like it's channeling this like bitter, hard side, but also like he's actually a human underneath all that.
Yeah, and you can see it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that my initial draw into the game was like we see Drummer in the show and who she is, and even we see her story arc in the show over the 5 of the 6 seasons she was on she was there, and so my draw was like, who was Drummer before that? And that's why I was like super into the super excited about the Expanse game, because I was like, I want to know who she was, because like the way she was in the show was like some shit must have gone down for her to have like this response to this situation. And I think that like I'm seeing like little glimpses of that coming through in the storytelling. And so I guess my question, Darren, is how much input did you guys get from Kara about the characterization of Drummer and also the core piece?
Real quick, the actor that played Cordiar, our friend Rafiki, answered Nick E. Tarabe. So Nick E. Tarabe. So that guy was great. So please go on. Let's hear about Kara. Let's hear about working with Kara.
Yeah. So I mean, like there was several videos we've had to come out about this already. So I mean, I'd be paraphrasing it best. So I would just say go. I mean, shameless plug, YouTube channel. We have stuff, but it was really interesting because Kara got a chance to kind of revisit her past. And not just the past of like, because the thing is, as you're playing, you're choosing different approaches for how you would go about solving a thing, or talking to someone. So you could have hard as hell Drummer, or I'm actually not that bad Drummer, just like hard enough Drummer. And
I approached it from the I haven't had enough life experience yet to make me a complete hard ass.
Yeah. Right. And you can do that. And that's kind of the nice thing, is that you can kind of come in with your own kind of assumptions of how you think this character is going to act, and there's no wrong answer. But and obviously, the terminal point of this is that drummer's going to survive and she'll be in the show, but that fate is not shared by anyone else on the ship.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had that happen once with I was running a prequel game of my RPG, and everyone on that episode had played their character in the future except for one, and I had explained to him, I was like, "Yeah, you're the one that can die." you just so you know. She's like, "Oh shit!" I was like, "Yeah, another person." So there's gonna be the choice is gonna be made. It's gonna be you. But yeah, that's a really interesting way to tell the story too, and I've been really happy with the game. I've been, whenever. Here's the thing, if we have criticisms of the game, if we have critiques of the game, it's not because like we're mad, it's just because like we love it so much. And
I totally get that. That's like I said, like I kind of alluded to this before. The Expanse community, the way I've always seen it, it's like it's very like nurturing, very supportive. Like we want to lift everyone up, and like if someone gets something factually inaccurate, instead of yelling at them, you're like, oh no, here's actually the peer-reviewed evidence of how this thing would work. And that's actually a really cool way to approach a fandom, to be honest with you. I wish more places did that, where it's just helping lift each other up to appreciate what's there even more.
Absolutely.
And that's what's drawn me, I think, to even outside of like the show and the characters and the awesome cosplay opportunities. The community is incredible. Like John and I are in a community together, and it's been around for almost 2 years, and I can say honestly and sincerely, I consider everyone a friend.
Aww.
And I love and care about everybody. Like I've had the opportunity to meet, John and a few other people, but like I'm just so excited to be surrounded by gracious, caring, supportive people. And I haven't seen that in any of my other fandoms. And I'm just like, don't ever go away, because I need you.
It's true. It's very true. Yeah, I'm trying to think. My last other comment about episode 2 was it was a very well paced story. It stepped up. I like getting to see the 3 different ships next to each other. That was really interesting. That was kind of they're kind of in a little love triangle of crashing. No, I don't know if that's a spoiler, but
you know what? I actually again, shameless plug. We had Tommy, who basically worked on like setting up that whole area, talk about that particular decision in the game design. I'm not going to steal his thunder, or because I'll probably get it wrong, but it's a really interesting thing. When you're balancing out accuracy, trying to tell the story, but also just from a gameplay perspective, how do you make it work?
Yeah. Oh, and you guys, I will give props to this too from the developers of the game. They referenced El Hashim in the game, and that was like a deep cut. That's a deep cut when they reference the security. That's a Earth-based security agency that Havelock worked for, and I don't think that was mentioned in the show. I think it was only mentioned in the books.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if it was readily apparent, but like the team at Deck 9 that really put this game together, they are huge.
Oh, they rated it.
Huge fans. Yeah, they totally they went deep, and they appreciated it. Like Tommy, who I keep referencing here, who we have on this week. He was originally a huge fan of the show long before working on the game, and imagine like being told by a company, we're going to pay you to make the levels and the ships and all these things for the game, for the show that you like so much. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Oh, I was going to say, speaking of deep cuts, I noticed some names from the show, and I wrote notes down.
Oh, here, give me. I want to hear this real quick. You catch all the stuff I miss, and
okay, I'm gonna try to keep my poker face in check.
So Captain Graff was mentioned in some sort of. I didn't make a note of what the communication was, but Captain Graff, wasn't he like a colonel in the show? The name sounded really.
Was it Graff or DeGraff?
I might have missed the DeGraff. It was he was Captain Graff. He didn't. I think it was an admiral, like when we meet him in the show.
That's not. It's not Franklin DeGraff, which was the ambassador. I'm trying to remember Graff.
Oh my gosh, maybe that was it. But yeah, I did see his name there.
Okay.
But I think it was signed Captain or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
There is Franklin DeGraff, who was the diplomat to Mars, who retired, and that guy's big because he was played by Kenneth Walsh, who is the only person to appear in my two favorite TV series, The Expanse and Twin Peaks. So that's why. And his costume is actually one of the few things I actually really want to win on the prop store because I'm super nerd like that. I want Wyndham Earls. The guy played Wyndham Earl, but yeah, go on.
And then also, when I was exploring the UNN Hiram?
Yeah, Hiram. Yeah, is it the Hiram Grant or something?
Yeah, that's Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah.
One of her presidents.
His name. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I noticed that in some communication with there's communication with the captain of the Grant with Aaron Wright. Wright, he said, telling the captain to chase down the Belters and the MCR ship.
Yeah.
So again,
good old Aaron Wright.
Again, like like I said last time, there's something going on. Like we're getting the peripheral of the story. That's my theory anyway.
Of the conspiracy, yeah, and that's the thing about I think the book did a better job than the show, but the book, like, it drops hints about the conspiracy throughout, but you can't put it together until it's too late. And that's one thing I liked about it, and that I feel like this game's doing a good job of kind of, if you haven't watched the show, you're gonna, and if you do watch the show, go back and play the game, and you'll see all these little tidbits of them, nothing you can put together, but it's all kind of there. It's just, there's no one has the opportunity to put it all together.
One thing that I've been advising people to do is for people who've come in and not seen the show before is I'm saying play the game, do the whole thing, then go watch the show. And then after you get a couple seasons into it, you get a feel for who Drummer is and what the larger conspiracy is and all that other good stuff. Come back and play the game differently, and then go with the new eyes of like, okay, now I have the context, make those different choices, whatever that may be. And it really is like one of those games where, I mean, I played it through multiple times to see how many people I could save, but there's more to it than that. And I think like having, for people who haven't played before, or rather seen the show before, it's a fun way to introduce them and then on ramp into the show and then kind of circle back afterwards and go, oh, I get it now. Yeah. And like all these little hidden panels and tidbits they find in the world that flesh out each of the characters or have a lot more, meaning, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, look, hey, thank you for joining us today, Darren. We really appreciate your time, man. Thanks for being able to step this up last minute and everything and come out and hang out with me. It's been good catching up with you too.
No, absolutely. I had a great time hanging out with you a while ago and today. Yeah, nice to meet you, Amber.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you too.
And we're hoping to catch you at some future conventions. If Telltale makes out for some conventions, if there's more Expanse, we really hope we get another season. I will say, as Expanse fans, we're used to saying this. We hope we get another season.
You know what? It all comes to like I would love nothing more. I'm the last guy that makes the decision. I'm the dummy writing like stupid memes. But I mean, basically, if people love it enough, sure. I mean, I'd love to have like a season 2 or whatever.
Yeah, and I can see it could be another person's story. It could be Drummer's story. That's what's beauty about it. It's a big universe with a lot going on. And I will say this: I really hope that the Officer Hour episode helps set that pace. Please give me my Shed Garvey season.
I'll put the word in.
Put the word. I also have to do the Shed Garvey theme because Amber is a large fan of the actor that played him. So.
I'll quickly share here. One of the big draws about the Expanse, the initial draws for me.
The guy they killed.
Oh my gosh, Jerry, like Paulo Costanzo with an Animorph, and I'm like, I'm a millennial, like through and through. I was super an Animorph, and I watched the show, it's my favorite thing, like experiencing like the things that I love in multiple different formats. And so like the guy that played Axe in the Animorph, I'm like, okay, I'm sold. I'm watching it, and I'm like, oh, well, what happened to Shed? But
And I, you know what? I never thought I'd be able to connect Animorphs to the Expanse in like one power move, but here we are.
We can. I mean, I gave you Twin Peaks, man. Like it's everywhere. It's so expansive on where hands go everywhere. Yeah.
Also, we can also tie in like choose your own adventure stories. I think there was like a choose your own adventure like animal style, and that was the other thing that drew me into the games was like it's reminiscent of the choose your own adventure stories, and I just love the heck out of those. And it was
it's ramped up choose your own adventure. I mean, it's a real that's you can't go wrong. There's a reason why those books were so successful in every library shelf because our childhood. So, all right, guys, well, we gotta get going. Thank you again, Darren, Amber. It's always a pleasure. We'll be back. We got different dates because I gotta start work on Monday nights. We'll be back in 2 weeks. So talk about episode 3 because we only have to wait like 2 weeks for the episodes, and we will give you all the dirt that we conspire and Darren won't have to deflect as many questions. If he wanted to be here to deflect questions because we have questions and we have conspiracy theories and the like. So, but
you know what? The funny thing is, all those. I'm glad I'm dodging episode 3 talk because it starts going off the rails in episode 3.
That sounds about right. I mean, that sounds about right. All right, guys. Well, we'll catch you all. I'll be back playing the game next week. The new episode and everything. And thank you for hanging out with us, everybody. And it's good to see you in the chat. Darren, Amber, thank you again. All right, guys, we're out. Later.
Thanks for having me.